today. Guys, if you haven't subscribed, remember to do that. Whenever you catch this live stream, please like it and let me know where you're tuning in from. As I'm going live, we'll let this simmer, see who pops on for the second live stream of the day. A lot to talk about, actually. It's my Monday afternoon. Usually Mondays are kind of quiet in our boxing universe, but there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. We have a huge month of July coming up. Not necessarily a huge week coming up. There's only 2 cards. There's a card in Turkey this Wednesday, and then there's the card in the UK on the weekend. So in terms of what's in front of us the next 6-7 days, there's going to be some very interesting matchups. I feel we're going to make a lot of money this week. I do my best when there's small amounts of fight cards. I always talk about when we got like 5-6 events throughout the week, I get big-eyed, and I get kind of like the kid in the candy store. But historically, from my own wallet, I'm always better when there's only a few cards, and I just could stay laser focused, not get too greedy. Everyone's tapping in. What's up? The first live stream today, guys, I went over all the fights that happened. We talked about the weekend, which was, if you want to revisit any of those conversations, feel free to strike that up. But read the topic for this live stream. We could focus on the upcoming July calendar. There's so many intriguing matchups. There's so many awesome fight cards to think about. Unfortunately for me, down here in Australia, my betting app doesn't have the odds out yet. So if you do ask me about underdogs or predictions, and I ask you for the odds, kind of have that info on deck, because down here, like I said, I'm not seeing who the underdogs are. I'm not really even seeing the favorites. There's actually no lines as of yet. But what we want to talk about, I mean, just in the last hour or so, if you guys, the UK is experiencing some kind of a lot of boxing news with Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. That fight, the rematch is going down. You could kind of signal off. Let me know how you feel about that. Personally, I was kind of shocked that they're fighting again. Economically and financially, I understand why. It was such a big success, the football stadium. I'm interested to see if they're going to do the same sort of production. And from a boxing purist side of things, in terms of livelihood, they both took a lot of shots. You know what I'm saying? And if Ben talks all this about wanting to become a world champion, but this contradicts his narrative of wanting to fight for world titles. DJ, what's up, buddy? No film on Cordina's opponent. I know. I mean, he's fighting, and it's interesting when you look at the breakdown right now of Joe Cordina versus Jared Quiros. It's for the WBO Global Light. It's one of these sort of national fight. I guess you would call it fringe WBO Global Light vacant straps. There's so many belts out there. We know about Cordina, 17-1. Gonzalez Quiros, 17-1. Identical records. I'm going to upload that this week, though. So give me time. This week, I'm going to be uploading the Catterall Eubank, Cordina versus Quiros. I'm going to do a Sky Nicholson breakdown just because she's Aussie, and I have a lot of Aussie boxing fans here. They love when I do her breakdowns. And I'm also going to do the main event in Turkey this week. We have Wednesday night boxing here in Australia, Tuesday night in America. What's up, Meech? What's up, DJ? Wherever you're tuning in at. Albert Badergaziev is fighting against James Dickens. Isn't Cordina a former world champion? I like Scofield versus Joe Cordina. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not super well versed on Cordina's career, but wasn't he a full world champion before? Pascal stopped 1-4. Might be an upset on Cordina's. Yeah, I got to do more research. I mean, Cordina was supposed to fight Shakur. Didn't happen. Yeah, I thought he was a champion. So, yeah, he has pedigree, guys. You know what? Full world champion. What's up, GOAT? Tapping in on a live stream. IBF. Yeah, it counts. Farmer, Izzy, you must have missed our first live stream. What happened with Farmer? Got caught cold. You know what I mean? I didn't see it coming. Some of you boys on the live stream sent me your receipts. If you picked Scofield, hats off to you. We covered that in the first live stream. So he has a win over Kakachi. That's a solid win. You know what I mean? Especially with how Kakachi ended up becoming a champ. We know he vacated to fight Lee Wood. You know, Kakashi literally said that he didn't want to fight Sugar Nunez. That's an interesting division. We don't really talk about 130 too much. Yeah, didn't see it coming. You know, I talked about it at length on my first live stream today, but I'll cover it once again because some of you boys didn't tap into that. Tevin, he got caught cold. Like I said, my hats go off to Scofield. I told you guys, Scofield was going to have to prove it to me. He did. He stepped up. Not a lot of 22-year-olds could do that. He knew all of the narratives going around his career. A lot of people were talking trash on him. I didn't think he was going to have it in him. The most impressive thing on my side for Scofield wasn't, I mean, you could say how he did it and how quick it happened, but every punch he threw was right on track. How precise he was, how accurate he was. Even that first hook that landed, how they, you know, they're in the middle of the ring and he out angles Farmer. They, you know, he goes from, you know, left to right angles and then throws the hook right on the button. Just looked real sharp. I was definitely impressed. So yeah, that's, you know, when I bet wrong, I tell you guys, and it had no shade. It had no shade towards Scofield. It's just I needed to see something. Now, the Floyd Scofield haters will now say, you know, that happened in one round. It was fluky. I need to see more. So I'm not standing here saying that you know, Floyd Scofield's going to be a Hall of Famer. I'm just saying he impressed me. And at 22 years old, he stepped up, man. I think that's great for the sport. Look, guys, just because I picked Farmer, I'm a boxing fan. Watching Scofield do that to Farmer is great for the sport. That's good for the division. Not just good for Scofield's career. It doesn't always go in the favor of the young up-and-comer against the veteran. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. And, you know, you got to feel for Farmer a bit. You kind of got to feel for him a bit, getting outed the way he did in the first round, not really, you know, recovering, and then Scofield when he saw blood in the water. And that's going to be a narrative now. This is why we got to love our sport of boxing, because what is it? What have you done for me lately? And now the most recent narrative for Scofield is what? When Scofield sees blood in the water, he goes for the kill, because we've seen this happen before. A fighter stuns a guy early on, drops his opponent, the opponent recovers, and then the front foot fighter is over-aggressive, over-swinging, misses wildly, and then the rest of the round ends up in a clinch. And then the one fighter survives, and then the fight continues on. Scofield did not let that happen to Farmer. He would not be denied. He dropped him the first time, and, you know, I was really impressed, like I said, with the accuracy of what his work was after the first knockdown. And, man, hats off, like I said, dude, 22 years old. Kid just changed his life. Awesome. It was great to see. We need more young come-forward fighters like I would love Rocky Austin in the house. I didn't see you tapping in yet. That's the fight we got to talk about, right? Isn't that the fight? Abdullah Mason versus Floyd Scofield. I know that Abdullah has been... Did they sign the fight? I think Abdullah is signed to fight the kid from the UK, who's a great fighter too. There's a lot of good young talent. And, you know, in terms of Americans, you really don't want to see Americans eating Americans. And this isn't supposed to sound controversial, but a 20-year-old American or a 20-year-old American, a 22-year-old American in the same division with all this kind of aura about them, you kind of want them to see, I think, meet up maybe in a year or so, maybe in 2 years. I don't know if I want to see them fight each other right now. We'll see though. But you know they would fight each other. Boxing's in such a good spot, guys. Boxing's in such a good spot. Even all that shit. I didn't cover this Jake Paul fight. We know why. You guys are on my channel long enough. But the prelims, the fights on the Jake Paul card were good. There were a lot of good matchups there. I favored Abdullah, but Abdullah got dropped. Scrappy, aggressive fight. It's a fun fight, GOAT, right? It's a fun fight. We've seen Scofield get dropped. Renee dropped Scofield late. Yeah, Pedro, I feel you on that. And I told you during Fight Week, Pedro, that I give props to Jake Paul as a promoter. You know, think about Julian Rodriguez. Julian Rodriguez, this is a guy that I bet against. Jake Paul signs Avius Griffin last week to an MVP deal. Avius Griffin's a 17-0 guy with 16 knockouts. Avius Griffin is a guy who trains at B&B Boxing. Avius Griffin is a Bomac fighter. Drops Julian Rodriguez, a smaller guy. Came up a division, drops him. I think, it wasn't a big knockdown, but he dropped him. It's a 10-8 round. I think that was in the 8th, maybe the 7th. And then with 10 seconds left, and I mean, it's kind of a moot point how we were scoring it, but some of the judges had Avius Griffin up. With 10 seconds left, Julian Rodriguez knocks Griffin out, dude. God, that kid just revitalized his career. Come on. And, this is, if you're a true boxing fan, even though Avius Griffin destroyed my parlay, when I'm seeing what Rodriguez did, I'm screaming at the TV. Even though I lost my ticket, I don't give a shit about that. I'm like, holy shit, I can't believe I just saw that. And, and watch the press conference. He was confident in the press conference. Josh Edwards, we're never going to forget his name now. Josh Edwards, we're not going to forget his name. Me and Goat, every time we do these live streams, there's been this, young pro in America, this young pro heavyweight. We see him fight, we forget his name, and he always wins by first round knockout. And then on the live stream, we forget his name. He fought, and I don't think we should forget his name anymore. Yeah, there were some fun fights on that card, guys, man. I was screaming at the TV. No, Ricardo. No, guys. Juan Manuel Marquez should not fight Pacquiao. Please stop. No. Edwards versus Saitama would be interesting. I do not want to see Juan Manuel Marquez fight Pacquiao, dude. I don't. There's so much young talent. We won't forget it's going to make, the guy's a beast. And just how he goes about his work. We'll see as he steps up. It's going to be interesting matchmaking. But, guys, we know the heavyweight division, especially on a domestic level, is very thin. And that's in, you probably could say that in any country. Australia, the heavyweight division's so thin in Australia, we had to take Terramona and send him to America. And so in America, it's really thin. So you win 5, 6, 7 fights in a row, all by knockout, you're gonna get a big step up. So I'd like to see how Josh Edwards kind of maneuvers his career, and I'm not sure who his handlers are. Those heavyweights can move up. Yep, taking over. Matias sending Puello to hell. I disagree. You're live again. Nice. Yeah, Dwayne, 2 a day. Walked miles to the gym. Dwayne, get that money. All blessings to you as well. Topuria got the knockout too. I told you about Topuria's hands. I've never seen Japanese heavyweight. Not the biggest guys. Speaking of 130, never seen Japanese heavyweight. If you remember when we were breaking down Sasaki versus Norman Jr., we were talking about the pinnacle of, Japan runs the smaller division. So Sasaki being not really a legit 147 pounder. I think Sasaki's more of a 140 pounder. He was a big Japanese fighter. But you'd have to go, I think, to early days of MMA, early days of Pride FC, late 90s, early 2000s. There was a fighter named Kazushi Sakuraba, but he wasn't a boxer. Sakuraba was one of my favorite fighters of all time. He fought at middleweight, light heavyweight. I think he might have had some heavyweight fights. If you're really a fight combat head, YouTube Sakuraba versus Vanderlei Silva. And Sakuraba kind of made his name, his nickname was the Gracie Hunter. So, I think it was Hoyler. I think it was either Hickson or Hoyler. In the fight, he dislocates Hoyler's elbow, and Hoyler puts it back into place and keeps fighting. And then I think Sakuraba knocked him out. Anyway, to your point, that's the last bigger Japanese champion, but that wasn't even in boxing. That was in MMA. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot to talk about. Where's our money at this week? Morota was a 60 guy. Yeah. But it just comes down to, in the heavyweight division, like we always talk about, there's a lot of movement right now. There's a lot of movement. I know Wilder fought this week, but I didn't cover that fight. Nothing against Herndon or Wilder. I'm only a one-man show. Yeah, Marquez is. Takayama, yeah, was that also that dude. Pedro, see, I got some real fight heads in here. Yeah, Avius Griffin, sheesh. And Nick Clark. And this is what I always like doing on the channel is, even though I lost money on Griffin, the story should be about Julian Rodriguez, what he did. It was an awesome moment in boxing. He got the knockout, but it wasn't pretty. Underdog against Xander Zayas. Chino. Zayas is fighting Chino. All right, I'm going to let you guys roll this. I'm going to pick one of the comments. You guys are on a roll. I appreciate it. Wherever you guys are, like this video. We're on for 15 minutes. I'm probably going to go at least an hour. This is my second stream of the day. A lot to talk about. Scofield enters the same way it does with the right hand low. Yeah, but Teofimo does it much classier with how he does it. Winning. Darnell and Scofield winning. Oh, no, I'm eating, what do they call it? Eating crow? Yeah, I was wrong about the Scofield fight. I wouldn't really compare Scofield's entrances to Teo's entrances. What's the fight you're most excited about that's been announced? Great question. I mean, what have you? We woke up today with the announcement of Brian Norman Jr. versus Devin Haney. How could you not be excited about that fight? Haney's fighting Brian Norman Jr. That they both released statements. They both tweeted about it. Turkey Al-Sheikh tweeted about it. We have a fight date November for Brian Norman Jr.'s belt in Riyadh in November versus Haney. And say what you want about Devin Haney, man. That kid, he's ready to fight anybody. I know. Pedro, I brought that up earlier on this live stream. I'm pissed that that fight's in Riyadh, man. Like, have that fight. So they're going to go to Riyadh, have a fight, maybe in front of a couple thousand people. They don't get big crowds there. I would love to see that fight in America. Brian Norman Jr. has time, though. He should get his homecoming soon. Hopefully, Brian Norman Jr. gets a huge fight in Atlanta and he's still the champion. So, yeah, we'll get to Zoo and Fundora in a second. We could get to Teofimo Lopez, too. You guys know I'm huge on Brian Norman Jr. I think that you would be ill-advised to say that he stops Devin Haney right now. I'm not saying that he's not going to beat Haney. I'm just saying that Devin Haney is a solid boxer. Devin Haney's shortcomings right now are not on the physical side. Devin Haney's shortcomings psychologically. We have to see, for this to be the fight after, Ramirez, and what he look like in New York City. I mean, that's not the game plan against Brian Norman Jr. That's not going to work against the 24-year-old legs. Brian Norman Jr. is fast. He has good boxing skills. He could box, but we also know he could punch. And, he could fight off the back foot and the front foot, Brian Norman Jr. So it's an interesting fight. I can't just say right off jump because I'm a big, I'm high on Norman Jr. I've been winning money on his fights. What he looked like against Sasaki, what he looked like against Cuevas. I can't just say, though, recklessly he would beat Devin because we forget Devin's jab. Devin's, it's hard for me to forget about what he looked like against Ramirez, though. So it's an interesting fight. And you can't see Devin, he doesn't have one-punch power. The thing is, Devin can't fight Brian like he fought Ryan. And he can't fight Brian like he fought Ramirez. So what's he? What version of Devin beats Brian Norman, right? What version of him beats him? The version, the version that beat George, use the jab and say what you want about Kambosos Jr. I mean, he worked his jab all night long. Kambosos had really no answers to that. In and out, smart movement, using lateral movement. We'll see. Yeah, I don't think he'll be able to hurt Norman. Norman's a big 147 guy, too. I mean, he's only listed at 5'8", 5'8.5", but we see Norman, very well put together guy. Yeah, the version that beat George is a good boxer. A great world-class boxer. Regis, the version that beat Regis. GOAT, great point. Is that his best version, guys? Is Devin versus Regis the best we've seen? Ricardo Velez, Tank's gonna lose Lamont. I like Lamont. I mean, I don't think that's, you could be onto something. The Devin that beat Loma, some people. No, Devin's real good. No, I'm not undermining Devin's skills at all. Norman by knockout, easy money. I don't know, man. It's a fun fight. I'm glad it's going down. Yeah, Norman is easy to hit. Yeah, Norman. I wouldn't say he's easy to hit. He's there to be hit. It's a style. Dude. I said it before the Sasaki fight. Norman reminds me of a 147 Joe Frazier. He does, dude. There's just certain things and sort of ticks in Norman's game of how he throws punches, even his style and how he carries himself, how the things that Brian Norman Jr. says. Watch old Joe Frazier interviews. Watch Joe Frazier train. Watch Joe. I know he was a heavyweight, but I don't know why. And I'm not talking about the optic of what they look like. I'm not saying they look alike, but he kind of reminds me of a throwback welterweight Joe Frazier, Brian Norman Jr. He's like in a different era. I think he's definitely a throwback guy. Haney has beaten a guy in his mid-20s entering their prime. Has Haney ever beaten a guy in his mid-20s, in their prime? I wouldn't even say Brian's in his prime yet. He's 24 years old. Regis world champion. How's he? Regis isn't overrated. Regis was a stud, dude. Regis is a good world champion. He's washed now, but how old was Regis when he fought Devin? Was that 2000? Was that 2020, 2022? Those years of the pandemic, Regis was 35. Okay. He was 35 when he fought Dev. I don't know. Let's fact check that, chat. I know he started boxing late. But yeah, somebody proposed the question, just pull Devin's resume up. What guy that he beat in his mid-20s? Prograis, George, Pedraza, Jorge Linares, Gamboa was what? Older. That was 5 years ago already. Abdullayev. That was his last night. He stopped Abdullayev. Yeah, there's not a lot there. There's not a lot there, actually. In terms of, it's good matchmaking. He's fought some big names. The wins, the wins over Linares, the wins over George, world champion, the wins over Pedraza, the win over Lomachenko. Yeah. It's interesting. From a boxing perspective, even if you take away the resumes, even if you just saw how Haney boxes versus how Brian Norman Jr. boxes, it's an interesting matchup based on that. Forget everything else. Forget the politics. Forget who they beaten. Forget who they lost to. Even both guys are defeated. It's an interesting boxing stylistic matchup. So yeah, and I think it's good for the sport. I like the guy Richardson Hitchens. Hitchens is a really, really good fighter. Norman wins facts. Yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you I'm betting against Brian Norman Jr. I've been eating off of his fights for sure. Are they gonna elevate? Do you think they're gonna elevate Raleigh, guys? Since we know that Boots did he vacate already? But all the rumors, he made it official. Boots to 154. There were rumors and speculation that they were going to vacate or they were going to elevate Raleigh Romero to full champion at 47. Who would win in a fight, Raleigh Romero or Barrios? Who do you guys like in that fight? Because I think at this stage of the game for Raleigh, it's all about matchmaking. And same thing with Devin. It's all about matchmaking. Yes, they're elevating him. They're going to make unification at the end of the Barrios. Okay, it's fun. Raleigh's one of my favorite fighters. Yeah, I love Raleigh. I think Raleigh Romero is an exact example of an overachiever. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, he's good for the sport. Okay, I didn't realize there were other Raleigh fans here. Sometimes I catch heat for liking Raleigh. One of my favorite guys to watch. Yeah, and Raleigh added a level to his game, guys. Raleigh, watching how he maneuvered the Garcia matchup, he fought pretty well. He fought smart. Yeah, it wasn't as stiff. Barrios Barrios is a big dude though. What's Mario listed at? Isn't Mario listed at 6 feet? Raleigh's not that tall. Raleigh's like he's a smaller framed guy. Like when he's stripped down and he's fighting at 40 and he fought Tank at 35, he looks like a big dude, but Raleigh is physically not a big dude. Barrios is a bigger dude. You think he was too big for 40? I think he's kind of an in-betweener. I think Raleigh's an in-betweener, mate. I think 147 is, I don't know if we'll see. I thought he would struggle at 47 with a rehydration clause. Yeah, I told you guys in my breakdown, I put my heart with Raleigh, but I put my money on that's a good idea, Goat. We'll do Goat. I like where your head's at. We'll do that this week. We'll do a whole July parlay. We'll piece a whole July parlay together. I love that idea. Pacquiao will go after Wama or Miguel. Come on, guys. So hold on. So chat, are we really expecting Pacquiao to have another fight? So are we expecting Manny to fight again after this Barrios fight? Is that what he's saying? Or is this kind of like, I'm having one more fight and then I'm done? Come on. Surely he's not planning for more fights. WBA, I don't count regular as a world champion. Guys, regular belts are not world champions. Pacquiao said he wants 2 to 3 more fights? That's insane. I didn't know that. Okay, if he wins. Tank stopped Barrios' body. Barrios was so drained to fight Tank. That's crazy that's the same Barrios who fought Tank. Chris B, I'm betting on those fights. Give me a second. That is insane that's the same Mario Barrios who fought Tank Davis. Look how big Barrios is. He's a big, isn't he listed at, am I off base for thinking he's 6 feet tall? Yeah, Mario Barrios he's listed at 6 feet tall. Dude, he fought at 135 is crazy to me. And he's only 30. Barrios, mate, you know what it is, because he had a stinker in his last fight. The Abel Ramos fight, right? That was the split draw. He just didn't look himself. I wonder if he was hurt. That Abel Ramos fight just kind of made you scratch your head. Like, is this a world title fight? What's going on here? Okay, so somebody said if Pacquiao beats Barrios, he's going for Raleigh's belt. But then, okay, answer me this, boys. You guys just said if Pacquiao beats Barrios, he's going for Raleigh's belt. Why did Brian Norman Jr. then take all this shit online for him allegedly saying he'll fight Pacquiao? Because after Norman Jr. beat Sasaki in an interview, he mentioned that if Pacquiao's there, he'll beat him. And all these haters were like, "Oh, look at Norman Jr. calling out a 46-year-old." But doesn't Pacquiao, if he puts himself right back in the mix, isn't that fair game? Isn't Pacquiao fair game for other champions to call him out? It's weird how Pacquiao beats Barrios, he's going for Raleigh's belt, but then Norman Jr. is a champion and he calls out Pacquiao and people call Norman Jr. a bully for bullying a 46-year-old. It's a weird little thing. Mismatch by 10 million. To think Pacquiao could be a unified champion is insane. I don't know if I'm here for that. Goat. I still don't know if I'm here to watch Manny Pacquiao, because the last thing I want to see is Pacquiao versus Barrios, and imagine if, I know he's not as old, but did you guys watch the event when Evander Holyfield, I know Holyfield was in his late 50s, but when Holyfield fought Vitor Belfort, and it just made me feel a certain way. Holyfield was my favorite heavyweight of when I was younger. Loved Evander Holyfield. I've interviewed him before. He's in one of my books. I've podcasted with Evander Holyfield before. And you see this old fighter with no legs getting knocked out against Vitor Belfort. I don't want to see Pacquiao at 46 And guys, anybody looks good on the pads too. I think he loses to Barrios, guys. What's up, Kane? There's no way I'm betting on Manny. Are you guys really betting on Manny to beat Barrios? Same thing. Exactly. Tyson versus Jake Paul. Same thing. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. Okay, so you guys agree with me. Then I'm not. I mean, I'm getting old, but you can't call me an old timer. I mean, I guess no, Conor Ben just announced he's fighting the rematch with Eubank Jr. They just announced that today. Yeah, anyone can look good on the pads, guys. Manny and you know, you get an aging fighter hitting the pads, hitting the heavy bag. Anyone, but it's when the lights come on and you have a 30-year-old in front of you with the legs and the movement, the feints. That's when we see the age. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. I got Manny and a few parlays with Crawford Berlong. I'm mad at the parlay. The Barrios card is amazing. It is. There's some great fights coming up. You think Conor won that fight? Nah, I don't think he did. I wasn't mad about that decision. I thought Eubank edged it the later rounds. I really don't want to see that fight again. Yeah, they announced the weight 160, a 10-pound rehydration clause on fight day. So they're fighting at 60, and they're not allowed to weigh over 170 on fight day. But I don't want to see that fight. What's up, McGee in the house? I just feel like Conor, they both took a lot of shots. They got hit a lot. Conor Ben literally has one gear. You know what I mean? When you're watching world-class boxing, you start paying attention to feints, exits, entrances, how world-class fighters could throw punches at different speed. Even within the combo, you see some guys, you know, light, heavy, light, different. Everything with Conor's front. And he just takes a lot of shots, and I don't know if I want to see it. I guess we're going to see it again. Barrios, the weakest champ. That's why. I mean, who we got at 47? You know, we got Boots' belt is vacant. We got Barrios there. We got Brian Norman Jr. there. There's a couple dark horses at 47. Like we talked about it a couple weeks ago. You know, I'm interested to see what Polanco looks like in his next few fights. I don't know if he has a fight scheduled. Rohan, he's an interesting guy there. But yeah, not a lot of huge names at 47. It's one of those divisions people come and go all the time. Barrios can't punch on the way out. Paul should be fine. Jake put an amazing card. He did. Jake's trash. The card was good. A lot of good feature fights. I agree with you there. Curiel. Dude, Curiel. I don't know about the champs. Maybe too soon. I have to see more of them. I missed that last comment. Fighting their dad's fights. Well, that's good for legacy, and we already saw it. You know what I mean? That's why the first matchup was so good if you know 90s boxing, if you know the rivalry in the 90s with, you know, Nigel and Eubank Sr. Yeah, I think I'm leaning toward Jack should beat Harlem. Catterall, I mean, Catterall gets a lot of shit. Let's talk about, we got Jack Catterall, El Gato versus Harlem Eubank. Catterall's a good boxer. He's a good boxer. He lost a really close fight to Arnold Barboza Jr. I mean, if he would have, you know, I picked Barboza Jr. to win that fight. And then Catterall, most people say he beats, wasn't it Josh Taylor? And then he lost that close decision. Catterall's a good boxer. He's a good operator in the ring. He's not going to do anything. He's not a guy who goes viral. You're not going to see him starch a dude and jump on the ropes. You're not going to see that from him. But he knows how to operate a fight. And yeah, Arnold Barboza Jr. is one of my favorite boxers. So I like boxers, which sounds weird running a boxing channel. But I don't think a lot of content creators in my space actually like boxing, which is insane. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of boxing content creators who have huge followings. I don't think they really like boxing. I love boxing. So Catterall, I love watching. I like watching Catterall operate. I liked watching that chess match between him and Arnold Barboza Jr. I don't think Barboza Jr. did that like the fight against Teofimo Lopez, for how great Teo looked. I mean, I watched that fight 2 times. There was definitely a speed disadvantage in Teofimo's athleticism, but it's not like Barboza Jr. got fucking washed out the park. Yeah, Barboza's a guy who's going to be in a lot of close fights. Cat's best win against Regis. I think so, but watch Cat. I think all right, guys. Let's talk about film tape. Let's talk about film study real quick. This is a segment. You know, if we really want to see a guy, what they're capable of. Watch the fight from last May when Catterall fought Josh Taylor. Taylor won a unanimous decision, which was insane. And that fight was only... So in 1, 2, 3... In a span of 18 months... Catterall fought Jorge Linares, Josh Taylor, Regis Prograis, and Arnold Barboza Jr. So none of those guys are going to have one-punch knockout power. It's good matchmaking. Catterall is a guy that could win rounds. And I think he beat Josh Taylor. I don't think that's a controversial take. I think a lot of people in the UK feel Catterall should have been a world champion. And, you know, since then, every time he's had a chance, I mean, he beat Regis. I still think the Taylor fight was him at his best. He beats Harlem Eubank. He's a better boxer. Eubank's a good athlete. He's getting better, actually. 21-0. I mean... What are the odds on that? It's a 12-rounder. What did I miss, Good? What am I writing down? I've been following the tank stuff. Yeah. Taylor's decline should be studied. He put belt to ass. Once Caddy faced a Russian or Mexican, he's done. He hits the downed opponent. When he scores knockdowns, he hits. That's because he punches like that. Punches. Did you see Griffin losing? I watched the fight. I was screaming at the TV. You know what I mean? Like, that was a great fight. Good for Julian Rodriguez getting the knockout with 10 seconds left, dude. That's a last second three. That's like a Tyler Halliburton, a Halliburton three-pointer at the buzzer. That's like a walk-off home run. You rarely ever see that stuff in boxing. 10 seconds left. Some could say down on the cards in the last round. You know, was it Chico Corrales? Was it Chico Corrales-esque? Maybe. But, you know, at the domestic level, Diego Corrales is one of my favorite boxers of all time. So that Chico fight against so many names, Luis, you know the fight. Do you think they might treat Harlem like the A side? I don't think so. It's in Manchester. Katayev is a Chance Morrell. I don't think so. Aman Katayev is a guy that fought a lot domestically here in Australia. He's promoted by Jim Cambosis. We just saw Katayev fight. I think he's 9-0, 10-0. And, yeah, everyone knows that fight. The thing about Katayev is he's dangerous for the first early part of the rounds. Morrell is dangerous throughout the fight. I think Morrell's a level above Katayev. I think David Morrell's a level above Katayev. I'm just going to say that. Yeah, I'm not either. All right, David, we see eye to eye on that. It's the best part about the chat, guys, is over and over, we don't have to agree on everything, right? That's a healthy conversation in anything. And on my channel, you're not going to have to worry about casuals chiming in because the minute they say some uneducated stuff, they get schooled. But yeah, with the Mon Katayev, what I don't like is his gas tank, really one-dimensional. And I think Morrell is going to look good against him. I think I think David Morrell has an opportunity to go viral with that stuff, to put his name right back, because he fought Benavidez competitively. We got some Aussies asking me about Sonny Bill versus Gallen. How many Aussies are in the house? Skeezy, you're an Aussie, aren't you? Skeezy, I think you're from Perth, right? Is that what you told me before? But we got some Aussies in the house. There's some Australian boxing. Sonny Bill Williams versus Paul Gallen. I'm going with Paul Gallen. Come on. Only because you got to hit that guy over the head with a fire extinguisher. I think Gallen's a better boxer, dude. Everything I've seen Gallen could punch, dude, and he could box. I like his clinch work. There's a lot to like about Gallen. Yeah, Perth. I remember Perth in the house. Paul Gallen, the GOAT. All right, we got some Aussies. That's what I'm talking about. Sometimes I'm hesitant because, guys, on my YouTube analytics, like 60% of the subscribers are from America, 30% are from all around the world, and then 10% are from Australia. A lot of people, including Johnny, are going with... I'm going with Puello. Guys. I think Alberto Puello outboxes Subriel. Akhmedov, Matias version. Oh, now we're doing boxing maths. That's insane. You guys think that Matias is going to win the decision against Pacquiao? Guys, if you're Brizzy in the house, guys, if you're going with Matias, you better go by stoppage. Matias isn't beating. I don't see him winning a decision against Pacquiao. Philly in the house checking in. He's training. They're all training hard, guys. Alberto Pacquiao is a slick southpaw world champion. Watch his perform against GAR. You think he's overrated? Come on. I mean, I thought the fight with Pacquiao versus Sandor Martin was closer than the Pacquiao fight versus GAR. GAR is one of the best fighters in the world at 140. Yeah, I'm real high on GAR, especially with what he did to Ryo. And then you guys are going to say Ryo wasn't that good. But going into that fight, Ryo had all of the hype. He had the belt, and GAR was the best version of himself. Every now and then, guys, we get to see a fighter who fights up to their potential. Sometimes you see it with a guy a lot. Sometimes you know there's stories of careers where you never really see it. You know, I'm sure you guys could list some fighters of yours that maybe we've never seen them fight at their full potential. Gary Antoine Russell against Raul Valenzuela. You could have put GAR against anybody that night. He would have boxed that way. That we got to see Antoine Russell at his peak. That was an amazing boxing performance. He would have looked like that on that night against anyone. And there we go. Ryo is weak. I think that's uncalled for, mate. I think that's, he's young. He has a penchant for going viral. He got pop. I like him with, Robert Garcia. He's not a finished product. He's not a, but that's what happens in boxing. You win a couple fights, you get a title shot, and then you become a champion. He's not a finished product. He's very kind of green in a lot of areas. But to say that he's a bum is insane. Come on, guys. If you're a fan of boxing, you got to be. Every time Raul Valenzuela fights, I'm tuning in. It's insane. PR versus DR, North Philly special. Yeah, Puerto Rico versus the DR. I love both islands. Raul performance. Raul's not. Okay, there we go. Yeah, it's just that, like I said, and I'm going to stand on that mountain. That Gary Antoine Russell version was in. That dude, that night was unbelievable. Pacheco versus McCumbee. Good fight coming up, guys. No one's talking about it. Pacheco versus McCumbee. If you watch Diego Pacheco's last fight against Steven Nelson, so cold, Bud Crawford's guy, if that fight was a little longer, Nelson was winning those later rounds. Steven Nelson, I think, won the last 3 rounds and was coming on. So Pacheco's really young. He's really good. And the last time we saw McCumbee, if I'm not mistaken, when he got stopped against Plant, and he dropped Plant. And then watching the Plant versus Resendez, how good is Caleb Plant? When you look at Caleb's, what do you want? What do you take from McCumbee? We know he's tough. We know he's a big dude. I think that's going to be a tough fight. Yeah. Okay, yeah. I think it's going to be a tough fight. I think it'll be a fan-friendly fight. Diego's one of those guys when he fights, his style kind of welcomes that sort of tough fight. I kind of wish Nelson fought him a little, like how Steven Nelson fought Diego the last few rounds in the strike zone, in the pot. I wish he would have fought him like that the entire fight. I think that's how you beat Pacheco. Teofimo would destroy Matias. Thoughts on Sims Jr. Duarte? Guys, if you would have asked me 2 years ago about Oscar Duarte, I would have turned the page. But I think it's really important to highlight boxers who have the willingness to level up after a loss. So it's a great question. Kenneth Sims Jr., good boxer. Oscar Duarte, if you watch the Ryan Garcia fight and listen to the announcers, that was supposed to be Duarte's one opportunity, and he lost. He got stopped. And a lot of times in that situation, fighters don't climb their way back to get big fights. But Duarte since then has leveled up and looks better and better every time I see him. So he's actually a guy, in my notebook, I have an asterisk next to Oscar Duarte. Kenneth Sims Jr. is a real challenge, though. It's a tough fight. Yeah, what happened to Colbert, though, guys? David, don't act like Colbert. You guys weren't on Colbert. You guys were, dude, the internet was loving Chris Colbert. Stop. Pacheco's going to McCrumbie. I love how you guys purposely change, like spell names wrong to hate on people. What's your thoughts on Taraji? Legit, you know, isn't that's the guy that's going to be Francisco Rodriguez Jr., right? He's going to get that fight. Because Taraji was supposed to be the matchup for Galal Yafai, but Yafai got dog walked. Yafai got beaten up, guys. We lost a lot of money on Galal Yafai. Pacquiao can do it. It's a close fight. Guys, wherever you're tuning in, could you like this video? We're kind of floating between 40 and 60 on the live. We're about 45 minutes in. I'm going to keep it going. Great chat for a Monday afternoon, for a Sunday night. But back to the Matias Pacquiao fight. Pacquiao was getting... Yeah, David Eister loves Matias in that fight. We're doing a July parlay. Shout out to Goat and Iman T for giving me that idea. We're going to do a whole July parlay. It'll be fun. I had Pacquiao losing to dude, the Sandor Martin frustrates the shit out of me. Sandor Martin frustrates the shit out of me in terms of kind of how he... It's almost like Martin gives away the last moments of every round. That kid is a really, really good boxer. Sandor Martin is world class. He does so many things at a high level. Like in a fight, if we're talking about high level in terms of like feints, timing, infighting, entering the pocket, exiting the pocket, Sandor Martin is a tricky problem. He beat Mikey Garcia. I know, and like just because he doesn't have one punch knockout power, people sleep on him. Yeah, Kenshiro's a stud. Kenshiro's a stud. Most entertaining. Japan has a few of those though. If we're talking about most entertaining fighter in the world, Japan has a few of those. And guys, it's hard to talk. I mean, I'm a huge Sugar Nunes fan. I think Sugar Nunes is one of the most exciting fighters too, though. You know, it's weird how Sugar goes to Japan and beats Rikishi. Sugar Nunes was a slight underdog. We won a lot of money on Nunes. And that style is so fun to watch. Yes, there's so many good fighters out there. What's up, PJ, in the house? Any word on who Karaji... Are they going to pair Karaji versus Francisco Rodriguez Jr.? Because that was supposed to be the fight. I don't know if that's going to happen. Because winner of Pacquiao Matias should face GAR Lopez Paro. Got Sugar versus... Great question. Do you Sugar versus Navarrete? Well, you'd have to think, though, that fight, it's going to take a while because Navarrete has to do the rematch versus Charlie. And they announced the rematch for Suarez versus Navarrete. I think I would take Nunes against Navarrete. I do. Bam versus Cafu's coming up. Dude, there's so many good fights, boys. So many good fights. I think so. I picked Navarrete to win the first one. I won a lot of money. Watching how the first Navarrete fight versus Suarez was trending when the fight got stopped. You know, we know what to expect from Navarrete early on. But then when you watch how that fight was trending, round 3, round 4, round 5, I think the cut happened in the 6th, you started to see the momentum shift. And if that fight continues on, and you got to think that Suarez is super confident going into the rematch, taking what he took from the mid-rounds, I think right now I would take Suarez to beat Navarrete right now. But we'll see. Taraji versus Rodriguez should be on that Mexico-Japan card. Guys, there's so many great fights to make. I think I don't think we realize it, how many good fights there are coming up. Navarrete always fights those fights, Skeezy. Navarrete is always in these weird, suspicious fights, these awkward headbutts and elbows, these 27-second counts. You know I did. Laka, I told you guys to take Joshua Van. So a quick little side story, a little side quest. I did a documentary about this Burmese martial art called Lethwei. It's called Burmese boxing. It's out of Myanmar, right? Lethwei is a sport where it's called the art of 9 limbs. It's basically bare knuckle Muay Thai, and the headbutt is legal. You're allowed to headbutt, and you don't wear gloves, and there's no judges, and you either get knocked out or it's a draw. And there's a rule called the resuscitation rule. So in a Lethwei fight, your corner has 2 minutes once you get knocked out to resuscitate you. I did a documentary on the sport. I followed the world champion around. He was a Canadian fighter named Dave Leduc. When we went to Myanmar to film the documentary, I became mates with a former 2-weight world champion and 1 championship called Ong Lan Sang. Ong Lan Sang the Burmese Python, was a world champion at 205 and 185. The guy who beat Aung Lan Song and won championship was a guy named Derridier. Derridier now fights in the UFC. He's on this really hot streak. But Joshua Van was, I think, 16 years old, 17 years old when I did this documentary. And Ongla told me about Josh Van. So ever since Van came into the UFC, his only loss was to another one of our boys from the channel, the 5'9" kid from St. Louis. And Josh lost to him when he was 20. But in terms of just clean boxing, you got Adrian Yanez, you got Joshua Van, you got Ilia Topuria in terms of Charles Johnson, yeah. In terms of boxing, best boxing in MMA, best boxing in UFC. I went heavy on Josh Van to beat Brandon Royval. I did the breakdown on a live stream last week. I told you why. He didn't lose. That was a great fight. Van lost yesterday. Good, you're salty because I told you Van would win. See, Good's the type of bloke, when I pick wrong, he railroads me with why he was right. And then when he picks wrong, it was a robbery. But at least we know where we stand. What are your thoughts on that? Nah, he didn't lose. Pantoja. I think Pantoja's grappling is going to... But Van has good takedown defense. I think Pantoja is a bit seasoned. It's a tough fight. Van's only been in the UFC, what? 18 months? Yeah, they both could have won, of course. Yeah, it's a good fight. I'm just speaking, this is locker room chat right now. Locker room chat. Yeah, Alexandre Pantoja is all around solid. RDR versus Bobby Knuckles. Tough fight for Bobby Knuckles. And Van's boxing in the pocket, dude. How he uses things that you don't see in MMA. You don't see MMA fighters sitting down on shots. Great boxing. Coming from Texas. I got a lot of love for you guys too. So where we are, we got RDR versus Strickland. Do you see what Strickland just went viral? The dude invaded a regional fight yesterday with and then threw hands against the guy who beat his guy. Google it right now. Go to Twitter and type in Sean Strickland. The dude's out of his mind. Mark Magsayo. Yeah, the Philippines the Philippines always got good fighters. I mean, it's the Manny Pacquiao effect. There's good fighters, good boxers that maybe aren't household names from the Philippines. I mean, Charlie Suarez, to name one of them. Sean Isabel. Did you guys see what Strickland did last night? It was uncalled for. And for so long, I tried to defend Strickland, but you can't defend him anymore. You can't defend him anymore. He's out of his mind. He race baits. Yeah, I like Strickland when before he went on Rogan. Basically before he went on Rogan. I liked him because of his one-dimensional boxing game. That awful Philly shell he would use, and he would just walk you down. Like when he got knocked out against Pereira. That version. Dude, Nunes versus Magsayo is a decent fight, actually. There's a lot of good fights there. Like we talked about earlier in the stream, I think that 130 pounds, people sleep on that division a bit. There's some guys in that division that, we just need marketing. We need guys, this isn't supposed to sound casual, but you got to go viral, right? You need the internet to see who you are. Yeah, John Cena. It's insane that happened. And his boy, the Action Man. The Action Man was in on it too. He's from Ohio, my guy. Who you got? Kakachi versus Ford. I mean, if we're breaking down Anthony Kakachi versus Raymond Ford, that fight's going down. It's a tough fight. Kakachi's 36 now. I think my favorite thing about Raymond Ford is that he's adjusted his fight style. He's made adjustments. Raymond Ford has made adjustments what his first part of his early career looked like and how he fights offensively to how he fights now to be more sort of entertaining, and I like that. But it's another one of these fights for you guys. If you've never watched Kakachi fight, if you haven't seen this sort of renaissance in Kakachi's career, Kakachi's going to pose a lot of problems to Raymond Ford. Pressure better than the guy. Yeah, fought earlier and he struggled. Well, Kakachi's coming off the Lee Wood fight, and we know Lee Wood is a champion at 126. The fight was at 30. It's a tough fight to call. Because didn't the last time we saw Raymond, wasn't he fighting Thomas Matisse? I think we broke down the Raymond Ford versus the Gunner Man. Thomas Matisse is a fighter out of Cleveland, Ohio. And Matisse on paper had a lot of knockouts. Yeah, the Gunner Man. And Ford handled him, you know, the thing about Thomas Matisse, that matchup is we knew going into that fight that Ford wasn't going to be able to bully Thomas Matisse, and Matisse was going to show him some veteran sort of things that Ford would be able to take and win a decision moving forward. And that's what we saw. And I think Raymond Ford's still at that level, at that part of his career where he's still learning and leveling up, which I like. I always talk about it. I love it. Who do you got? I'm never betting on Brandon Figueroa again. I'm never betting on Brandon. Somebody just triggered me. I am never betting on Brandon Figueroa again. That's it for me. So you asked me about Brandon Figueroa and Joette. I'm not betting on that fight. Brandon Figueroa, I can't believe that he's... What, did you see what he looked like in his last fight? All that shit he talked, he retired. He gave his half-hearted apology to his fans. I'm done. And you know what's crazy is he's not the first Figueroa to do that. Do you remember what Omar Figueroa looked like against Abel Ramos? Yeah, exactly. Go to Omar Figueroa. I think it was Abel Ramos. Oh, God. I love Figueroa's your favorite fighter? What? Not this version. Not this version. God damn, I couldn't believe. I'm petty. I'm a petty bitch. I cannot believe that Omar Figueroa versus Abel Ramos fight. All of a sudden you see, and Figueroa was like a 3-1. And we went, and all of a sudden he changed his fight game. You see Omar Figueroa here doing this whole thing. And just getting tagged. Abel Ramos was looking like a goddamn... He made Abel Ramos look like a goddamn world champion. Anyway. Yeah, and Brandon did the same thing. What the... yeah, don't even... We were having a nice little live stream until you boys dropped what you think about Brandon Figueroa and Joette. I think it is a good bet. Out of spite now, this is one of the rare times I'll give you a spite pick. Nothing against Figgy. I would go with Joette. I know Abel Ramos is good. I'm salty. This is the salty gambler side of me that's coming out. You guys obviously know me. The more you hang out, you'll know me when I'm being serious, and then I clown a lot. My personality, guys, if you grew up with me, or if you're know me personally, I grew up around all my friends. We clown each other, so I use humor a lot. I can see Joette winning that fight. Oakley versus Lorena. There's a lot of good fights, guys. Skeezy with the Perth. Talking about Figgy. I think Joette, you're hating. I'm not hating on his look. Come on, dude. He's a pretty kid. Hating on his looks. That would be insane. That would be crazy. Joette can win though. Yeah, so let's talk about real quick, boys. We got Wednesday night boxing. Elbert Badargaziev versus Jazza Dickens is going down in Turkey midweek. And then Catterall versus Eubank. We got the ladies, Katie Taylor card. That's an insane card. Shakur Stevenson. There's so many. Lester Martinez is fighting. Nobody talks about Lester Martinez, guys. We're hating on his brain for changing his style, even though arguably... yeah. I felt like as a fight fan, we should have got an email. You know what I mean? When I watched Omar do that, I was like, I should have got an email from Omar's camp. Hey, Johnny, Omar is going to be fighting at a different style. You're not used to it. It's like they forgot how to fight. Did you bet on Espinosa, the guy who fades every fight, no jab versus Ramirez, the hype drop? Did I fight on Espinosa, the guy? So many names are being thrown at me. I made money on both fights. You made money on it. Good for you. Please, Joette, win a world title. Oh, are you talking about Rafa Espinosa? Hold on. Are you talking about the world champion at 126? No, Ricardo. There's no talk. There's no talk of Sergio making a comeback, guys. Stop this. Do you think Shiraz can UD Berlanga? No. I mean, anything could happen. I'm not going that way, though. Yeah, Rafa Espinoza is one of my favorite fighters, guys. He fights at 126 pounds, 6 feet tall, 6'1", mean, volume, long, punches down. A lot to like. I'm a big fan of Rafa. Turkey said Lester versus Mobili. So isn't Martinez, has he fought it? I thought he was the 47 guy. Lester's fighting in 2 weeks. Dude, Sergio beat my boy in 2008. The most saddest I've ever been in boxing was when I sat through, I think, 12 rounds of Sergio outboxing my boy Kelly. That's how you've never seen a more sad. I'm just sitting there like, he's a personal friend of mine. Like when you travel with when you grow up with a kid and your friends, you travel together on baseball tournaments, he becomes a pro, you travel with him, you see him become a world champion, and you see Sergio Martinez just outbeat him. No, Kelly Pavlik. Kelly Pavlik's one of my best friends. Sergio Martinez was old when he beat Pavlik. And so when I'm talking about, I don't want to hear no Sergio's coming back. What are we talking about? Yeah. And then, Kelly lost to B-Hop. There's only 2 losses. I was at the Jermaine Taylor fight, the first fight. You guys tune in. I speak about it ad nauseum. I don't want to hear about Sergio Martinez coming back. Crawford versus Canelo. Here we go. Yo, man, do you think Harlem can beat Jack? He can beat him. Good athlete, Harlem is. How do you feel when I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy when B-Hop beat him. What are you talking about? Dude, I don't know if anybody remembers this, but after the fight ended, B-Hop grabs Kelly around the shoulder and says, Kelly, you're the best fighter in the world at 160 pounds. Stay at 160. Don't let this fight destroy you. If that means I have to show up at your parents' house to pick you up to take you to the gym, I'll do it. He said that to him in the ring. Totally big brothered him. And that fight was at 170 pounds. Kelly was, Kelly's wheelhouse was 160. But, when people ask me what are the fights that never took place that you want to see, 2 of them. Kelly Pavlik versus Paul Williams and Kelly Pavlik versus Andre Ward. Both fights were signed. Both fights were supposed to happen. And both fights fell through, man. You guys could find on the internet the stare down between Pavlik and Paul Williams. It was supposed to go down in New York. And I think Kelly had to pull out because of a shoulder injury. And then he was supposed to fight Andre Ward as well. I would have loved to see those fights. Yeah, Shiraz is under Andy Lee. Now, Andy Lee is a good coach. And, guys, is there another guy right now that gets as much credit as Andy Lee in terms of, like, when fighters leave and go to him? Think about Ben Whitaker. Ben Whitaker goes to Andy Lee and, had a great performance. Pavlik versus Frock, good call. Yep. Do you guys remember, was it Arthur Abraham? Was it Arthur Abraham? Another one of those Brit fighters? Shiraz will box Berlanga's head off. I don't think so. I think Berlanga beats Shiraz. Yeah, I think Manny Robles. I think Edgar Berlanga's. It's weird how I think people are kind of falling in love with hating Berlanga's personality. Joseph Parker too, Andy Lee, good call. Edgar Berlanga has good hands and not just power. He has really good hand speed. Good hand speed in the pocket. Really fun pocket fighter. And wants to fight you in a dogfight. I think Berlanga stops Shiraz. No, Pavlik wasn't after the Calzaghe era. Pavlik went pro in 2001 and retired, I think, in 2009 or 2010. Kelly retired at 29, 30 years old. He had a seizure. He was in a fight camp and had a seizure. Everyone says it was because of alcohol. He had a couple of DUIs here and there, and our local media in Youngstown, Ohio, didn't really support Kelly like they should have. They support him now. And so Kelly was training for his last fight. I think he had just fought the kid from the UK. I think he took him to a decision. Forget his name. And then in one of his fight camps, he was training with Robert Garcia out in California and had a seizure. And he was like, he had a young daughter at the time, and he retired and never came back. But he was young. I'm glad he did that. He does a lot of good things for our community back in Ohio. He runs the gyms. He puts on fights. He's a coach. I love. You don't like Ward Style? Have a good night, Styles. Can't trust Edgar though. Why can't you trust Edgar? Why can't you trust Edgar? That was hilarious. All right, I thought it was not. I thought you were gonna say something else. Health is wealth. Paul, I know, heartbreaking, David. Heartbreaking. The Punisher was a beast. The Punisher, mate, at 160, boy. Paul Williams. Damn, that bums me out. Well, Kelly knew David when David was 13 years old. Who we betting on this week? Ellie Scone. Guys, I'm gonna start wrapping this up because time. I'm hanging out with you boys for an hour. I gotta go see what my girl's doing. She just. I won't get too personal. I'm gonna go see what my girl's doing real quick. Guys, have a good evening. Like this video wherever you are. If you haven't already, hit subscribe. It's not that busy.